with Coca-Cola, the drink of togetherness.
Hello and welcome to The Breakdown. You're on ThePapare.com. This is going to be a post-Bradby analysis of the weekend that was, and what a weekend it was. We saw a massive upset on Friday and then a stunning game on Saturday as well. A couple of stunning games on Saturday, and then we had a game on Monday as well. To review all that, joining me on The Breakdown, Boa Athu. Good to have you in the studio, mate.
It's an absolute pleasure, and it's nice to be back on the program exactly a year apart.
Yeah, exactly a year apart. And let's talk about the results from last week. We had Wesley, who put that massive upset over St. Joseph's, 15 points to 13. They managed to win a really tense, error-ridden game. We'll come back to that. Royal College, 13 points to 24. A reversal nobody really expected, given how Trinity played in the first leg and the result in between as well. St. Peter's College, 27, coming back. The physicality just a little bit too much for Pathan, who managed to get close. 27-21 that game finished. And St. Thomas's running away in the second half with their game as well, scoring the bonus point, 37 points to 9 over Science College, their Mount Lavinia rivals. Let's take a look at the key matches of the week. Looking back on the weekend, let's look first at Wesley versus St. Joseph's. This was a game that St. Joseph's went into expecting to maintain their unbeaten record, Boa. And for the most part of the game, it looked like they would manage. But suddenly something happened to them, and then Wesley managed to string a few phases together.
Yeah, I think it was, form lines, both teams coming into the game. Obviously, St. Joseph's undefeated, they were brimming with confidence. However, I think the break has affected them in the negative aspect. Whereas Wesley, their form has been on a roll. Now, if you recall the week before, they rolled Pathan and they played some really good rugby. What they did do was have confidence, and if you look at their defensive structures, they were playing what we call zero ruck, or not contesting the ruck or the breakdown when they were under the pump, and that's what eventually won them the game. It was a scrappy sort of game, but because Wesley had the run-on form as opposed to St. Joseph's, who were sort of cruising into the second round, they basically caught them napping.
And St. Joseph's very good on the counter there. Both the tries they scored off the counter attack. You can't afford to kick to that back three.
Yeah, look, you can't give these guys gifts. And, when St. Joseph's got that ball, it was a kick right across, and Wesley had packed the right-hand side. They've got guys who are very intelligent, and they just attacked the far corner, and it was just too easy. So you're right. You can't afford to give teams who counter, especially when they kick receive, freebies.
15 points to 13. It was very close, and towards the end of that game, last few minutes, we loved it as purists. We like to see people not infringing and all at the same time really hard-nosed stuff. But St. Joseph's didn't look like they were going to score from there.
No, and you're right. For the purists, it was a fantastic game. It was like two boxers trading punches. They went at each other. It was very, very physical. There was lots of tackles. And you're right, Wesley didn't infringe. And St. Joseph's, they almost try and take a cue out of Royal's book. They put phase after phase, one out, one back. But this was one of the key form lines I looked at when I did my numbers on statspert. Because if you recall, I tipped Wesley for the upset, 5 and under. I did expect a few more tries to be scored, but because the game was scrappy, but I think the last 7 minutes of the game, it was a tense arm wrestle, and I guess we really enjoyed it calling from the box.
Yeah, it certainly did. Well done to Wesley for winning that one. Of course, that puts the cat among the pigeons in terms of what's happening at the top of the table. We'll look at the table in a bit. But then luckily the rain stayed away for what was a cracker of a game at the Royal College Sports Complex. Trinity travelling down for the second time in as many weeks to the Royal Sports Complex and salvaging some pride more than anything else. 24 points to 13. They won that second leg. And after what we saw in the first leg, nobody really gave Trinity a ghost of a chance.
Look, Trinity, Trinity fans, you need to be very, very proud of your boys. And you're right, they salvaged some pride. I think they played with some real attitude. They brought the mongrel into the game. And you have to understand, the last time any team beat Royal at Jurassic Park was 812 days ago. So that's a phenomenal feat. And Trinity, after 5 years, win a Bradby Shield, and I think it's going to be it's almost going to be a generational impact, because there'll be kids in the younger age grades, they would have seen this and they would have taken heart. And what Trinity did do was they finally showed their true potential. They played to their patterns, the 1-3-3-2 pattern, and they were fearless. And that's what Bradby Shield rugby is all about. And to Royals' credit, every time Trinity threw something at them, they responded, and I think it was an epic of a game and one for the ages.
Yeah, it certainly was one for the ages. Bandaranaike leading, not from the front, but from the back, actually. He was monumental under the high ball and really sparked some good stuff for Trinity from the back. He was a little anonymous in the first game, but this game, he managed to really show what he's made of and what his Trinity team are made of. But there's a little bit of controversy as well, Boa. In the first leg, nobody talked about the referee, and that was a great thing. But this time, there are a few discussions centering around whether the balls were grounded and whether the TMO could have been referred when he was available.
Well, yeah, I mean, there was at least 2 tries, where on replay, it looked like there was no clear grounding. It looked like a try hadn't been scored. However, many a times we tend to criticize referees for not being on the spot. But in this instance, Ishanka was bang on the button. He was right there, and he was very, very adamant in avoiding the try straight away. However, when we looked at the replays, there was clear daylight. And if you recall, on run-on commentary, I did refer to it as, is it a blade of grass or a pint of oxygen? So to me and pretty much everyone watching it, there was, clear oxygen. That said, if the referee is adamant that he was there and he called the try, I think you've got to go with your gut instinct. Now, there's a lot of stuff swirling, especially on social media. Look, guys, the decision's been made, and yes, the footage is fairly conclusive that there was no grounding. Take it for what it is. It's done, it's dusted, just got to move on.
And Royal did manage to respond. They didn't take a step back from that as well. And when they needed to, they went to Athu, they went to their tried and tested maul, and they managed to do the business.
Yeah, that's right. When they were sort of poked, they responded. Mm-hmm. And what we shouldn't get away from is that it was an amazing spectacle. It was an amazing game. And we have to understand, this is a human game. People will make errors. I do have to make a very strong point, though. Rather than being hard on the person, in this instance, the referee, the touch judges, or the assistant referees, and possibly the TMO, I hope the authorities are, very, very thorough and robust and hard on the issue at hand, which is obviously the procedure, i.e. referee education. So this is probably going to be a learning experience. Right throughout the season, the referee Ishanka, he's had some tremendous games, and good reward for all that endeavor, what he has showed right throughout the season. So I think, vilifying him or hanging out to dry is not going to do anything. He was very adamant, he was right there, and overall, his general run-on play was fantastic. It's just a shame that, we've had a few decisions which were controversial.
And we had a few cards as well. 3 cards are all in the game, maybe a few too many.
Oh, look, if it was up to me, I'd pickpocket the cards out of the referees. I, for one, do not like yellow cards. My opinion of yellow cards is it's just got to be reserved for outright foul play and really cynical fouls, or what people refer to as professional fouls. Although I find the irony is, what's professional about fouling? There was one card in particular, I think the Trinity halfback, 22, was it Kujana Kulatham? Yeah, that was a real killer blow, because what happened was Royal kicked to touch, went to their famed fishtail driving maul, took it over, scored, converted, and won by 7. And guess what? Trinity won the second leg, but lost the Shield by 6 points. So, look, these things happen. I just hope that people learn from these, and we can get a better outcome, because the Bradby Shield it's really outgrown everything, hasn't it? It's bigger than Ben-Hur. It's the ultimate. So many people put so much time and effort and money into it. I have to say, Trinity, they had a amazing pre-season. They went to Wellington. They spent 44 days there, and the sheer effort, the strength and conditioning, the nutrition, the psychology. So it all comes to a head, and when these sort of things mar the whole spectacle, it's just really unfortunate.
Well, in the end, we got one of the classics of the Bradby Shield, and fitting for the 75th anniversary of the Shield as well. Congratulations, Royal running out winners in the end, 47 points to 41, and everybody loves it when it's close, though, Boa, I don't think anybody enjoys a one-sided, lopsided contest.
Oh, it was just riveting. You couldn't write it in the stars. I mean, the last 5 minutes, if you recall, we were just sitting on the edge of our seats in the comm box, and, the Facebook feed was going off its nut, and people were just messaging each other, and it was absolute drama. You just couldn't script this, and that's what we want. We didn't know which way it was going to go, and obviously Trinity had the last roll of the dice. We thought Shanaka Amarasinghe Ghost Protocol may come into the equation, but he didn't, and ironically he took it forward. And Royal, what amazing defense. They turned the ball over, showed that discipline, flooded the ruck. And it was a very poignant sort of image when I think it was Fadil Adhan. He tells his man, points at the touchline and says, look, mate, just kick it out. So, amazing game. And I think if you're watching out there, don't lose sight that this was one of the greatest Bradby Shield games ever. And how fitting was it for the 75th anniversary? Please don't let any of these little sideshows mar such a spectacle.
Absolutely, well said. Boa, let's move on to St. Peter's versus Isipatana quickly as well. St. Peter's sitting pretty at the top of the table only because they've played a game extra, and Isipatana leading, but just not enough physicality towards the end to carry them through.
No, and I think it was overall a bit of a scrappy game. Both teams, making a lot of errors, and I think the one issue Isipatana has, as you alluded, is the physicality. If they had forwards who could take it with the big boys, i.e. Royal and St. Peter's in particular, I think the results would have been much different. Because keep in mind, they have the seasons or the school league's most intelligent player, Manil Kuruberu, in them. But unfortunately, if you're not going to get good ball, and if you don't have forwards who can dictate terms, it's a very steep ask.
It is indeed. 27 points to 21, how that finished in favour of St. Peter's. Let's look at the numbers now, courtesy of stats.thepapare.com. Here are the numbers from this weekend as well as the league.
Live scores Denagan, ThePapare.com with the PVSN.
Looking at the leaderboard at the moment, we have St. Peter's on top, but they've played 8 games, so don't get alarmed by the fact that they're 5 points clear of Royal and St. Joseph's, who are both on 35 points. And these games, we've had Royal play St. Peter's already, but St. Joseph's have to play both Royal and St. Peter's, so their run-in is a little bit more difficult, whereas St. Peter's probably just have to win one more game.
That's right, and you have to understand, St. Peter's in the second round, luck has it that all their games are at home. And that's a huge advantage. And as far as St. Joseph's go, given how they've been dealt a hand, all their games are away. Royal, well, for their goodness, they have their own destiny in their hand. So what they need to do is win and win well. However, they've got 2 really tough customers. Now, keep in mind, the last team to beat Royal at Jurassic Park was Isipatana. So the Major Milroy Fernandes Trophy is coming up next week, and I think this is going to be one heck of a game. I just can't wait.
Isipatana really do pick themselves up for that particular trophy game as well. And speaking of trophies, we have one between 4, 5 and 6 as well up for grabs, because you want to finish in that top 4. It's almost like winning a trophy for either of these teams, Isipatana, St. Thomas's and Wesley, and very close together, 29, 28 and 25 in points.
That's right. One of the teams I'm really bullish about is Wesley. I really like their late form. I think they've trained in a certain way, and they've got a really positive rugby culture, especially under coach Paul Toya, and they play to their strengths. If they can step up another notch, and I think they will, because you got to allow for natural progression and improvement from last week. I think this Wesley side under this guidance, they're going to go a long way. And I'll be very interested to see how they perform over the next 3 to 4 seasons.
And they've got a game in hand as well, Boa. So they play Science College in the upcoming week. So look for them to get a bonus point there, and they'll leapfrog right above Isipatana. So
That's right.
that's a lot going on for Wesley there. Trinity bringing up the rear. Unfortunately, they haven't been playing the way they played this weekend throughout the season. And if they do manage to take that form into their next few games, look for them to climb up, perhaps at the expense of St. Thomas's as well. Science College not able to win last week against St. Thomas's either. So they have 2 wins in the first round, and that's all they can count themselves lucky about. They're very much bringing up the rear in that particular standing. So the top try scorers, Tenuka Nanayakkara coming to the party again last weekend for St. Peter's from the fullback position. Wherever he pops up, he manages to create something, and Kamindana Pereira with his 4-try burst against Isipatana moves up the leaderboard as well with 7 tries, and Tenuka Nanayakkara also moves up to the top point scorer position, surpassing Manilka Ruberu. He's on 74 points. Let's look at the upcoming fixtures from next week. We have St. Thomas's taking on Trinity in the Canon RS Cicerum Trophy. Boa, big trophy for both teams. Do you think Trinity have enough momentum now?
Well, it was a very, very tough day in the office for them. My natural instinct is I think they might have a little dip in form. St. Thomas's, they've been a bit scrappy and they've had a bit of a charmed run, haven't they? So I'm expecting St. Thomas's to get up. However, if Trinity can reproduce what they did against Royal, I don't think any side in this league can actually beat them. But the big question mark is the consistency. And keep in mind, Trinity have to travel down to Colombo again. So very, very steep ask. It'll be a great game. I hope it's close, and I hope Trinity hang in there and turn up with a consistent performance.
Yep, let's wait and see what they can do, and St. Thomas's will be aching for that win as well. St. Peter's take on St. Joseph's in the Battle of the Saints. Is that going to be the title decider?
Probably. One thing I can say is we can expect export quality rugby. It's going to be very, very entertaining. I just hope both teams, they don't, scuttle their natural instincts and they just go for it. And there's going to be some feeling in this. And given that this is going to be at home for St. Peter's, they have a clear-cut advantage. And it'll be interesting to see how St. Joseph's bounce back from their loss. One area St. Peter's have a clear-cut advantage is the forwards. Up front, I'm expecting them to dominate. And, they're going to keep their title hopes alive. But if they have a repeat of last year, where they gifted St. Joseph's possession, then it's all on.
Yeah, it's going to be a hell of a game, that much is for sure. So let's wait and see how that turns out. Unfortunately, all 3 matches on the same day on Saturday. That's the RS Cicerum Trophy, the Peters versus St. Joseph's game, and the Royal versus Isipatana game for the Major Milroy Fernando Trophy. So that's coming up as well. Royal, you would have to say, are favourites at home.
Absolutely. The monsters, they are absolute monsters at home. And that's why I refer to them as the mighty T-Rex and Jurassic Park. Royal they'll be feeling a little bit sore after losing, and knowing Royal, they would cross the T's, dot the I's, and they'll want to come back with a complete performance. If they do that, they will probably run away. But again, Isipatana, like I said, they get up for this game. What we can't predict against or predict for, see it whichever you want to, is the inconsistency. You look at a form line, you pick a form line and you follow it, and if you have a high level of errors, then it just puts everything out of whack. So, you can't calculate attitude, you can't calculate heart, but that's what seems to be fueling most of these teams and taking them across the line. So I guess the Royal Isipatana is probably not going to be any different. That said, Royal will want to play a very structured game, control proceedings. I hope that's not the case. I hope it's going to be an open game. We can only hope and pray.
The other game on Sunday is going to be Wesley taking on Science College, and look for Wesley to win that one comfortably. They'll be looking for that bonus point as well to go up the ladder. So that brings us to the end of the breakdown for this week. Boa, thanks a lot for joining us. Great to have you for the Bradby and of course the other matches that we had in between. Hope to see you again soon.
It's my pleasure, and I've just got a quick message for all of you viewers out there regarding the Bradby Shield. Thank you very much for joining us live and exclusive on ThePapare.com. You guys made it happen. So from the bottom of my heart, a huge thank you again. And guess what? Let's hope to do it again.
Absolutely. See you next time.
Sri Lanka lose another wicket, and that brings the total to 98.
Let's get together and cheer our Lions to victory. Let's rally behind our team at the Cricket World Cup.
We want a
With Coca-Cola, the drink of togetherness.